An invitation to mystery. Have you ever felt a sudden shiver race down your spine when you encounter tales of vanished civilizations, cryptic clues that upend our historical assumptions, or hidden ruins that speak of times long gone? If so, you are about to embark on an odyssey through stories as mesmerizing as they are, perplexing accounts of the past that refuse to yield their secrets without a fight. Welcome to our grand exploration of ancient mysteries, a panorama of enigmatic artifacts, half-buried legends, and mesmerizing locales. In the pages that follow, we will investigate conundrums that remain unsolved even in our era of scientific and technological prowess. Enigmas that compel us to reconsider what we know about human history. As you read, imagine yourself holding a torch of curiosity, traversing dusty corridors of forgotten lore and seeking new perspectives on phenomena that continue to baffle researchers and historians alike. Yet this journey is not simply about the past. It is equally about how these mysterious tales echo the philosophical and spiritual questions that have occupied humankind for millennia. Are these discoveries mere relics of an ancient world, or might they confirm timeless insights that religion and philosophy have tried to articulate through parable symbols and moral codes? If we allow our imaginations to venture far enough, perhaps we can glimpse how these riddles resonate with broader existential concerns. The possibility that an entire city can vanish without a trace, that statues might walk without any known technology, or that artifacts could be far older than accepted chronologies, suggest that human history is neither linear nor simple. Instead, we confront a tapestry woven from many threads, scientific, cultural, and spiritual. You might also notice that certain mysteries stand at the intersection of multiple cultural narratives. For instance, the notion of giants inhabiting the earth emerges in legends from Nevada, to the scriptures of various faiths that speak of mighty beings called Nephilim. Then there are the cryptic markings in far-flung corners of the world, Australia, China, North America, sparking debates on how humans migrated, traded, and formed spiritual understandings of the cosmos. History, religion, and philosophy often collide in these stories, raising questions about how different societies interpret the same natural or supernatural events. Some read them as allegories, while others hold them up as literal truths. As we delve into these puzzles, it is essential to keep an open mind. Many of these accounts have been sensationalized, with conspiracy theorists proposing extraterrestrial involvement or hidden advanced technologies. Conversely, mainstream scholarship offers more conservative explanations, leaning on geology, archaeology, or cultural anthropology. The truth likely rests somewhere in between, offering both rational answers and an enduring wonder that transcends mere facts. That sense of awe has powered philosophical debates for centuries, whether in the works of Plato, discussing Atlantis, in religious texts that reference cosmic catastrophes, or in modern dialogues about lost civilizations. As you progress, prepare to be both intrigued and inspired, for these mysteries may touch upon deeply human questions of identity, meaning, and destiny. In what follows, we will embark on an expedition to examine a range of enigmas, from the legends of red-haired giants in Lovelock Cave to the puzzling pipes in remote Chinese mountains, and from Rapa Nui's giant Moai to the cryptic artistry of the White Shaman mural. Each tale is a fragment in the vast mosaic of human history. By revisiting them with fresh eyes, we may find deeper understanding not just of the ancient world, but of our own capacity to wonder, question, and believe. So fasten your metaphorical seatbelt and get ready for an odyssey that spans continents, epochs, and the multifaceted corners of human imagination. In these pages, let questions arise, let doubt sharpen your intellect, and let the allure of the unknown guide you onward. Lovelock Cave. Giants, Myths, and Mummies. In the parched desert landscapes of western Nevada, near a place known as Lovelock Cave, we encounter one of North America's most haunting legends, the red-haired giants that the Paiute people reportedly fought and vanquished. Oral histories speak of a fearsome tribe called the Sitaka, towering cannibalistic predators with flaming hair. According to the legend, various tribes united to trap these giants in Lovelock Cave, using smoke and fire to end the menace once and for all. For generations, this tale was dismissed as a cultural allegory, or at best, a cautionary saga. However, in 1911, two miners digging for bat guano stumbled upon a wealth of artifacts, including large sandals and other tools that seemed oddly oversized. Could this discovery hint at some element of truth behind the legend? What truly ignited controversy were subsequent excavations overseen by Llewellyn Loud from the University of California a year later. Thousands of artifacts were retrieved, baskets, woven traps, and skeletal remains that some early accounts described as gigantic. Adding fuel to the fire were stories about red-haired mummies notably taller than typical human finds, with some skeletons reportedly exceeding 6.5 feet. Although that height is unusual, it is not entirely beyond the realm of human biology, and many of those oversized remains have since vanished, possibly into private collections or lost through decades of disorganized research. Scientists who have studied the existing evidence more rigorously lean toward a more mundane explanation. Maybe the so-called giants were simply tall individuals or members of a group with a larger-than-average stature. But even after more than a century, controversies persist. Some observers believe that the red hair is a clue to an otherworldly origin, referencing biblical accounts of the Nephilim or hypothesizing an extraterrestrial link. Others argue that the hair color may have changed over time due to environmental factors like mineral staining. Moreover, some of the original excavations were poorly documented, leaving a patchwork of inconclusive data. DNA analyses of certain remains did show genetic markers from Eurasian populations, yet no definitive proof of a separate race of giants has emerged. Since many of the largest skeletons were reburied out of respect for indigenous communities, additional studies have been limited, perpetuating the aura of mystery. From a religious or philosophical standpoint, the story of Lovelock Cave can be interpreted in several ways. It could be a narrative about the moral necessity of unity against threats. Or perhaps it reflects deeper psychological archetypes, our collective fear of titanic adversaries and the triumph of smaller but cooperative forces. In broader mythological contexts, giants often symbolize chaos or archaic primordial forces, while more average-sized humans signify the rise of civilization and order. This duality resonates in global folklore, reinforcing the universal fear and fascination dynamic about beings larger than ourselves. Whether the Sitaka existed in the flesh or only in the Paiute's imagination, their story continues to captivate explorers, researchers, and storytellers. It underscores just how blurred the line between myth and reality can become. reminding us that sometimes even the most outlandish legends hold grains of truth. The White Shaman Rock, a desert mural of time. Travel now from the desert plains of Nevada to the sun-baked canyons of southwest Texas, near the confluence of the Pecos River and the Rio Grande. Here you will find a hidden gem known as the White Shaman Rock Shelter, a place that has baffled archaeologists and enthralled visitors for years. This mural, sprawling across a limestone wall, nearly 26 feet long and 13 feet high, forms a dense tableau of human figures, animals, and enigmatic symbols. Colored pigments, especially vivid reds and yellows, seem to shift in the changing light. By day, you might notice bright, warm tones that reflect the desert sun. At night, in the glow of the moon, pale outlines stand out, and the white shaman figure at the center becomes an almost ghostly presence. For decades, researchers struggled to interpret the significance of these images. Early speculations described it as a vision quest record, perhaps, painted by shamans under the influence of mescaline-containing plants such as peyote. Others argued that it served a more practical function in local culture, maybe related to hunting rituals or tribal alliances. The real breakthrough came when artist-turned-archaeologist Carolyn Boyd devoted 30 years of her life to studying the mural in painstaking detail. Her conclusion was that the painting was a mythic narrative akin to a large-scale storybook depicting cosmological events like the birth of the sun, the transformation of the shaman, and connections between earthly and spiritual realms. Particularly evocative is the winding snake that might represent the border between material existence and the spirit world. What is especially compelling about Boyd's theory is that she found parallels in the contemporary rituals of indigenous descendants like the Huichol of Mexico. One Huichol shaman was reportedly moved to tears upon seeing the White Shaman mural, claiming it represented the creation myth of his ancestors. This continuity across thousands of years testifies to the durability of cultural memory and symbolic imagery. Critics, however, caution that modern analogies can be misleading. People evolve, mythologies morph, and meaning can shift over millennia. Some archaeologists doubt whether we can definitively match today's narratives to those from as far back as 2500 BCE. But even the skeptics agree that the mural's complexity hints at a sophisticated, structured worldview. In exploring this site, it's impossible to miss the philosophical questions it raises about how humans express religious or spiritual ideas in visual form. The concept of a shaman bridging the earthly and heavenly worlds appears in shamanistic traditions worldwide, from Siberia to the Amazon. The White Shaman mural aligns with this shared theme of transcendent journeys, evoking universal questions about life's origins, cosmic order, and the role of spiritual intermediaries in bridging the mortal and divine. This universal quest for answers might help explain why the White Shaman mural has endured as both an archaeological puzzle and a source of inspiration. Visitors who scale the rugged terrain to reach the rock shelter often describe a profound, almost sacred hush that envelops them upon first sight of the painted expanse. Whether we interpret it as a religious text, a historical record, or an ancient form of cosmic poetry, the White Shaman mural stands as a testament to humanity's timeless desire to make sense of the mysteries around and within us. The Baigong Pipe's ancient plumbing, or natural phenomenon. Next, we cross the Pacific to China's Qinghai province, where a remote mountainous region near the city of Delingha conceals an equally perplexing mystery, the so-called Baigong Pipes. Discovered in 1996 by an adventurous writer named Bai Yu, these curious rust-colored tubes run through rock and stretch outward from a triangular cave, ultimately reaching the shores of Lake Tosun. The pipes vary in diameter from just a few millimeters to an impressive 40 centimeters, giving the impression of some elaborate human-made system. Moreover, the cave itself is perched at an altitude of around 2,800 meters, with no known record of significant human settlements in the immediate vicinity, a fact that accentuates the enigma. Initial excitement exploded in 2002 when Chinese media began to report on these pipes. Scientists conducted various analyses, finding a predominance of iron oxide in the composition and a curious 8% of unknown material. Coupled with dating methods that suggested an age of up to 150,000 years, the Baigong pipes swiftly drew attention from conspiracy theorists and alternative historians. Some interpreted them as remnants of an advanced prehistoric civilization, or more sensationally, alien technology left behind as evidence of extraterrestrial visitation. The presence of a pyramidal mountain near the site and a saltwater lake further fueled wild hypotheses that soared into the realm of UFO bases and lost worlds. However, more conventional scientists proposed a simpler, if less sensational, explanation that these pipes are likely the product of natural mineralization processes known as concretions. According to this view, ancient tree roots or other organic materials became encrusted with iron-rich sediments and gradually fossilized over epochs. When geologists examined certain cross-sections, they observed telltale growth rings like those in fossilized wood. Analogous phenomena have appeared in places like Louisiana, where metal-coated formations turned out to be roots encased in sedimentary layers. This perspective indicates that the Baigong pipes might be a striking but natural geological formation rather than an artificial construction. Despite these plausible geological explanations, doubts remain. Critics point out that the pipes appear too regular and systematically arranged, hinting at a deliberate design rather than random, natural processes. Some have questioned why the pipes seem to converge towards the lakeshore, or why certain tubes exhibit mild radioactivity and still contain that elusive 8% of unidentified material. Further complicating matters is the location itself. Remote, barren, and sometimes restricted due to nearby military installations. This inaccessibility hinders large-scale independent research. Thus, the Baigong pipes dwell in that liminal space where rational hypotheses intersect with the allure of the unexplained. From a philosophical angle, mysteries like the Baigong pipes highlight our deep-seated human need to interpret phenomena in ways that align with grander narratives, whether they be about lost civilizations that preceded recorded history or evidence of cosmic neighbors paying Earth a visit. Religiously, we might see them as a prompt to consider the divine or ephemeral nature of advanced knowledge. Did an ancient intelligence once hold secrets we can scarcely imagine? Alternatively, the pipes may remind us of the false dichotomy between ordinary nature and extraordinary artifacts. Sometimes nature itself creates wonders so striking that they resemble engineered works. As with many puzzles in this realm, the Baigong pipes continue to invite both grounded scientific inquiry and awe-filled speculation. Rapa Nui's Moai giants in the Pacific. Journey to the windswept shores of Rapa Nui, better known as Easter Island, and you enter a world of monolithic figures, nearly 1,000 Moai statues, some towering over 30 feet high and weighing many tons. Located more than 2,300 miles off the Chilean coast, Rapa Nui is one of the most isolated inhabited places on Earth. How did a relatively small Polynesian population construct such colossal statues with only stone tools, ropes, and the limited resources of their remote island? The Moai have puzzled explorers since Dutch navigator Jacob Roggeveen first arrived on an Easter Sunday in 1722, naming the island after the Christian holiday. He found a society whose devotion to these statues appeared both spiritual and practical, with Moai often erected along the coastline as silent sentinels. The majority of the statues were carved from compressed volcanic ash at a site called Rano Raraku. This quarry still holds dozens of partially finished Moai, including the colossal El Gigante, which would have reached over 70 feet if completed. Scholars believe that shaping each statue required immense teamwork using basalt picks known as toki. Once a Moai had been fully carved, the next challenge arose how to transport it, often across miles of uneven terrain, to its designated Ahu platform. Over time, two main theories have dominated the discourse. Some researchers suggest the Rapa Nui might have used wooden sledges or rollers, contributing to the island's swift deforestation. Others propose a more elegant method, walking the Moai upright, with groups pulling on ropes from either side to rock the statue in a gradual forward motion shuffle. Modern experiments on smaller replicas have demonstrated the feasibility of this technique. But an even deeper mystery involves the abrupt cessation of Moai construction and their eventual toppling. By the time European ships returned in the 18th and 19th centuries, many of the statues had been overthrown. Oral traditions speak of clan conflicts, resource depletion, and a spiritual crisis in which the Rapa Nui lost faith in the Moai's protective powers. A tragic history of slave raids and introduced diseases further devastated the native population, reducing them to fewer than 200 individuals by the 1870s. The desertion of Rano Raraku's half-finished statues might correlate with these calamities, though alternative hypotheses point to ecological collapse. The systematic cutting of palm forests for rolling logs or canoes undermined the island's resources, eventually crippling society. Philosophically and religiously, Rapa Nui stands as a potent symbol of the delicate balance between human ambition and environmental sustainability. The Moai themselves can be seen as spiritual guardians, repositories of mana divine or ancestral power tasked with safeguarding the island's clans. Their silent gaze inland might have reinforced a sense of communal identity and devotion to ancestors. When resources became scarce and tensions rose, these once revered statues fell, marking not just a physical toppling, but also the collapse of societal cohesion. Today they serve as cautionary icons for modern civilizations that likewise wrestle with balancing growth and ecological stewardship. In recent decades, archaeological projects have worked to preserve and restore Moai, while genetic studies of Rapa Nui remain an active field of inquiry. Although mainstream scholarship offers plausible explanations about deforestation and socio-political strife, a lingering aura of the unknown persists. Were there alternative techniques for carving and moving these statues that have been lost to time? Might spiritual beliefs or mythic instructions have guided the Moai's walk more than we know, whatever the case? These silent giants remain living metaphors for human ingenuity, faith, and the fragility of our bond with the natural environment. The Sangsingdui bronzes, a lost civilization revealed. From a tiny island in the Pacific, we move to the ancient heartlands of China's Sichuan province, where farmers and workers in the 20th century stumbled upon what is now regarded as one of the most groundbreaking archaeological discoveries of modern times, the Sangsingdui bronzes. It all began in 1929, when a local farmer came across odd jade and stone fragments while digging an irrigation ditch. This initial discovery barely hinted at the wonders to come. Real excitement erupted in 1986 when workers accidentally uncovered 2 ritual pits containing an abundance of bronze masks, jade artifacts, and gold objects unlike anything ever seen in Chinese archaeological records. The Sangsingdui culture thrived roughly from 2700 to 1000 BCE, paralleling the Shang dynasty in northern China, but exhibiting a strikingly different aesthetic and religious tradition. Towering bronze statues with elongated eyes, bizarre protrusions and imposing masks suggest a highly symbolic art style that diverged from typical Shang motifs. Some masks feature massive bulging eyes thought to represent a deity or supreme ancestor, while others have sharp angular features that defy the usual anthropomorphic forms. The largest mask, discovered in more recent excavations, measures over 1 meter across and bears an almost extraterrestrial aura. Adding to the mystery is the deliberate burial or destruction of many artifacts. Excavators noted that the items seemed purposely smashed or burned before being interred in pits. What ritual impetus or catastrophic event might explain these actions? Numerous theories abound, from religious ceremonies that required the symbolic killing of sacred objects to the possibility of external invasion or internal collapse. Research also points to surprising influences or parallels with other cultures, the presence of silk, evidence of advanced bronze metallurgy, and certain motifs reminiscent of the earlier Neolithic Liangzhu culture in eastern China, all hint that Sangsingdui was a vibrant, interconnected society. Religious and philosophical reflections on Sangsingdui inevitably arise. Does this civilization's sudden disappearance parallel stories of lost kingdoms in global mythology, places like Atlantis or Mu, which vanish overnight due to moral or natural cataclysms? Or did it merge and assimilate with the broader expansions of other Chinese dynasties, leaving behind only its mysterious artifacts? Some archaeologists suggest that the inhabitants might have relocated to the nearby Jinsha site, evolving into later Chinese cultures. Others entertain more dramatic scenarios, like devastating floods or invasions that abruptly ended Sangsingdui's golden age. In 2021 and 2022, renewed digs at Sangsingdui uncovered thousands of additional relics, including gold masks, intricate bronze trees, and statues of hybrid human-serpent figures. The complexity and craftsmanship remain astonishing, pushing us to reevaluate conventional narratives about early Chinese civilization. While mainstream historians emphasize the continuity between Sangsingdui and later cultures, alternative viewpoints speculate about external contacts, possibly via long-distance trade routes that influenced or introduced novel ideas. We may never fully comprehend the spiritual system that motivated such elaborate bronze work and ritual burying, but each artifact resonates with a sense of reverence. The cultural legacy of Sangsingdui, rife with supernatural imagery, challenges us to expand our understanding of early state-level societies in Asia. In a philosophical light, it reminds us that human creativity and spiritual yearning can thrive in forms startlingly different from the traditions we think of as classical or mainstream. Bridging belief and history, reading through tales of red-haired giants in Nevada, a majestic desert mural in Texas, mysterious subterranean pipes in China, monolithic Moai on a remote Pacific isle, and astonishing bronze masks from Sichuan, one might sense a unifying thread of wonder weaving them together. True, each site possesses its own cultural context, technological backdrop, and mythic resonance. Yet collectively they serve as testaments to humanity's enduring drive to explore, create, and interpret the unknown. From a philosophical vantage point, these stories invite broader reflection. Might there be universal patterns in how early societies confronted the mysteries of life? Birth, death, cosmic order, resource scarcity, and the thirst for spiritual meaning. For instance, the legends of the Lovelock Cave giants might overlap with worldwide narratives of monstrous or giant beings who preceded or threatened humankind. Some religious texts describe mighty or fallen races, sometimes linked to cosmic genealogies. Interestingly, indigenous knowledge often frames these tales within moral lessons, cautioning future generations. In the White Shaman mural, the spiritual drama is explicit, depicting a creation myth that resonates with living traditions thousands of years later. Meanwhile, the Baigong pipes and the Moai of Rapa Nui embody the tangible puzzle of how was this achieved, driving archaeologists to unearth pragmatic solutions like walking statues with ropes or explaining pipes through geology, even as imaginative thinkers ponder the possibility of advanced knowledge lost to time. Sangsing Dui, in turn, underscores how easily entire civilizations can slip through the cracks of recorded history, preserving only cryptic remains that challenge assumptions about a monolithic cultural lineage. Each story reveals a tapestry of ingenuity, from masterful stone carving to advanced metallurgical processes, revealing that the ancient world was no mere patchwork of primitive societies. Rather, it comprised sophisticated, often interconnected realms of art, spirituality, and technology. On a more religious or theological level, these mysteries force us to consider how ancient peoples might have understood the divine or the transcendent. Did the Rapa Nui carve Moai as embodiments of their ancestors' mana, while the people of Sangsing Dui crafted bronze masks to connect with powerful deities or spiritual intermediaries? Do the White Shaman images reflect a universal theme of cosmic journeys undertaken by mystics paralleling shamanic traditions in Siberia or Central Asia? In each case, we find evidence that belief in something beyond the physical realm was not merely ornamental. It was integral to community coherence, social order, and existential comfort. Furthermore, the tension between mainstream science and alternative theories highlights our own era's uncertainties. Geologists and archaeologists generally prefer natural explanations and documented chronologies, while more esoteric thinkers posit undiscovered advanced cultures or extraterrestrial influences. Somewhere in that crossfire, these ancient relics serve as silent witnesses. They neither confirm nor deny. They simply endure, inviting each new generation to question, study, interpret, and reinterpret. Thus, these mysteries enrich not just our knowledge of the ancient world, but also our discourse on faith skepticism and the power of collective curiosity. As you prepare to explore even more sites, equally curious and occasionally confounding, carry with you the realization that these puzzles speak to the very core of what it means to be human, always seeking, always yearning, never fully content with the boundaries of the known. Transition to Part 2. So far, our explorations have touched on gargantuan forms, clandestine cave dwellers, vivid murals, and baffling metallic conduits. Each narrative underscores the complexity of piecing together the puzzle of antiquity. What remains remarkable is how many of these enigmas remain unsettled, perpetually spurring new theories, re-examinations of data, and interdisciplinary dialogues that bridge archaeology, cultural anthropology, theology, and even engineering. Just as the Moai represent the apex of Rapa Nui's artistry and devotion, so too do the Lovelock artifacts or the Bagong pipes stand for the layered mysteries of their respective cultural or geological contexts. Modern technology may provide new tools, remote sensing, carbon dating, DNA analysis, but the core puzzle often persists. Indeed, in many of these locales, older controversies resurface whenever a new piece of data emerges, symbolizing how dynamic the study of ancient mysteries can be. Yet we should not forget that these tales also raise timeless philosophical and spiritual dilemmas. Are we as modern explorers truly any different from those ancient societies that shaped giant statues or carved murals with hidden meanings? We may not craft Moai, but we launch space telescopes and form global data networks, each in its own way a bid to transcend the ordinary and connect with something larger than ourselves. The White Shaman mural or the Dui bronzes question the boundaries of knowledge, artistry, and worship, prompting us to wonder whether we can ever fully decipher the perspective of past civilizations. As we move forward, we will continue to discover how archaeology can blur with folklore and sometimes feed into modern myth-making. The lines between fact and fiction, between spiritual allegory and historical reality, may become even hazier. Yet this ambiguity is part of the enduring charm of such mysteries. If everything were explained, tested, and catalogued, would our innate quest for wonder diminish? Perhaps we need unresolved riddles to drive creativity, debate, and progress. As the philosopher Paul Ricoeur once intimated, symbols and myths carry layers of meaning that can transcend chronological distance, linking us in an unbroken chain of interpretation across centuries or even millennia. In the upcoming part, we will travel from Mesoamerican monuments that defy explanation to inscriptions in the American Southwest that might recount biblical commandments, from exquisite jade figurines in Central America to baffling ocean floor anomalies in Antarctica. As each new location unfolds, keep in mind that these accounts do not merely recount historical facts, but shine a light on how societies across time and space have tried to grapple with the unknown. Whether we label these phenomena as illusions with a grain of truth, advanced lost knowledge, or hoaxes, they persist in stirring our imaginations. Thus, let us continue with our odyssey, step in further into the labyrinth of ancient enigmas. Prepare yourself for further wonders as we dive into part 2, where we will confront cryptic inscriptions, perplexing stone heads, deep-sea enigmas, and more. Like an epic tapestry, each thread weaves into another, binding us to a shared human fascination, the relentless desire to unlock the secrets of our past. Unraveling these riddles may not yield all the answers we crave, but the journey itself illuminates the richness of human creativity, resilience, and hope. Artifacts, inscriptions, and oceanic enigmas, the Olmec heads, colossal stone visages of Mesoamerica. Now let us shift to the lush lowlands of Mesoamerica, where the first great civilization of the region, known as the Olmec, left behind iconic stone sculptures that continue to mesmerize. Discovered mostly in modern-day Mexican states like Veracruz and Tabasco, these colossal Olmec heads range in height from just over a meter to well over 3 meters and can weigh up to 50 tons. The earliest of these monolithic heads was unearthed in 1862 by a curious farmer who realized he had stumbled upon a giant stone face. Since that time, archaeologists have identified a total of 17 known Olmec heads, each bearing unique features, thick lips, broad noses, and intricate headdresses. One of the most bewildering aspects is the sheer effort required to quarry and transport these stones. The basalt used often came from the distant Tuxtla Mountains, sometimes more than 90 miles away from the final placement site. Without the wheel or metal tools, the Olmec presumably navigated rivers using rafts or employed wooden rollers on land, no small feat given the size and weight of these stones. Once the giant blocks arrived, master artisans painstakingly carved each head using only stone chisels, obsidian blades, and abrasive sand to polish details. It is estimated that hundreds of workers might have been involved, dedicating months or even years to the creation of a single sculpture. Who or what did these heads represent? Many scholars suggest they were monumental portraits of Olmec rulers or elite figures, each one commemorating an influential individual. Intricately carved headdresses could signify political authority or perhaps link the person to the supernatural realm. Some researchers argue these heads were also connected to a ritual ball game deeply ingrained in Mesoamerican societies, with certain details on the headdresses hinting at protective gear. The controversy intensifies when considering that some heads were deliberately buried, relocated, or even defaced in antiquity. Did a new dynasty topple old rulers, or were these acts part of cyclical religious practices? In the early days of their discovery, some observers speculated that the facial features indicated an African origin, an idea that stirred significant debate. Contemporary anthropology now mostly views the features as representative of the local population's diversity, a point supported by DNA and cultural analysis. Nonetheless, the distinctive style of the heads remains a hallmark of Olmec art, bold, commanding visages that exude a quiet power, hinting at a sophisticated social and political structure. Spiritually and philosophically colossal heads remind us that humans have long been motivated to immortalize their leaders, deities, or mythic heroes in monumental form. Similar impulses emerged in other parts of the world. Consider the giant statues of ancient Egypt or the imposing figures of the Polynesian Moai. Across cultures, building massive effigies could have served as a means to channel divine favor, to fortify political authority, or to enshrine memory in stone. The Olmec heads in particular reflect a society well versed in religion, astronomy, and possibly mathematics, an awareness of cosmic cycles that later civilizations like the Maya and Aztec would elaborate upon. Through these stone giants, we catch a glimpse of Mesoamerica's earliest threads of cultural complexity, a preludium to the layered tapestry that would characterize the region for millennia to come. The Los Lunas Decalogue stone Hebrew commandments in New Mexico. An entirely different sort of inscription awaits us in the American Southwest, specifically in the arid hills near Los Lunas, New Mexico. In the early 1930s, archaeologist Frank Hibben of the University of New Mexico was guided to a massive basalt boulder. On its smooth face were 9 lines of script that resembled Paleo-Hebrew ancient lettering sometimes associated with the Phoenicians or early Israelites. Translations of these symbols seem to approximate the Ten Commandments, including invocations of God and instructions akin to those in the biblical Decalogue. The so-called Los Lunas Decalogue stone appeared at first glance to herald a revolutionary find. Could it be that ancient Semitic mariners arrived on the shores of North America long before Columbus? As one might expect, this discovery triggered both excitement and skepticism. Proponents of transoceanic contact theories championed the stone as evidence that Old World explorers had indeed made it to the southwest. They pointed to the topography of the area, claiming it might have once been more accessible via prehistoric waterways. Some even speculated that the stone was a missing link connecting Jewish or Phoenician traders to the New World in a manner earlier than any accepted historical date. Yet mainstream scholars found plenty of reasons to doubt this interpretation. First, the script was a jumbled mix of Paleo-Hebrew Greek-like characters and Samaritan forms, hardly a clean period-consistent text. Second, the grammar and arrangement were inconsistent with known ancient Hebrew inscriptions. Third, the overall archaeological context was lacking. No accompanying artifacts or structural remains pointed to a Semitic presence. Another twist is the controversy around Frank Hibben himself. Rumors persist that two students from the University of New Mexico carved the stone in the 1930s as a prank, fully aware of Hibben's interest in early human migrations. Others argue that the stone might be a 19th or early 20th century creation by devout settlers wanting to memorialize biblical commandments. Over time, further complexities arose. The weathering on the carving appeared older than modern graffiti in the area, which suggested it was not a brand new forgery. Yet no definitive carbon dating can be done on the stone itself, and direct evidence remains elusive. From a religious or philosophical standpoint, if the Los Lunas stone were authentic, it would significantly reshape our narrative of cross-cultural contact and the diffusion of Abrahamic religious texts. One might recall theories linking ancient Israelites to indigenous American traditions, famously championed in certain fringe circles. Yet such claims rarely withstand critical scholarly examination. Instead, the Los Lunas Decalogue stone's greatest contribution may be its role as a cautionary tale about how easily modern archaeology can be entangled in hoaxes, nationalistic fervor, or wishful thinking. It underscores our collective yearning for dramatic revelations that would overturn the established timelines of history. Even if the stone is spurious, it captures the imagination, a basaltic testament to an alternate reality, where biblical commandments were etched on American soil centuries or millennia before Columbus. The possibility alone is enough to stir fascination. At the same time, it reminds us to remain vigilant, maintaining rigorous standards of evidence while leaving space for the creative speculation that fuels our sense of wonder. Much like the Moai of Rapa Nui or the Olmec heads, the Los Lunas stone, whether hoax or hidden relic, stands at the curious intersection of archaeology, mythology, and the undying human desire to bridge old worlds and new. Costa Rican jade figurines, guardians of power and belief. Heading south to Central America, we encounter the breathtaking artistry of tiny jade figurines from ancient Costa Rica. Visitors to the Jade Museum in San Jose are often awestruck by the delicate craftsmanship of these objects, some as small as a few centimeters, yet carved with impeccable detail. Representing animals like owls and frogs or human figures with elaborate headdresses, these jade pieces were not merely decorative. Rather, they symbolized power, spiritual beliefs, and possibly even cosmic alignments for the societies that produced them between around 500 BCE and 700 CE. One of the most perplexing facts about these artifacts is that Costa Rica itself lacks native jade deposits. Researchers believe the raw material came from the Motagua River Valley in modern-day Guatemala, over 600 miles away, implying a robust trade network that connected Mesoamerica and Lower Central America. But how exactly did these heavy and valuable stones traverse the dense jungles and rugged terrain centuries before advanced roads or pack animals? Scholars propose that merchants traveled by river when possible, but they also likely undertook perilous land routes. The trade was worthwhile. Jade was more than mere ornamentation. It denoted status for tribal leaders, signaled spiritual potency for shamans, and acted as a precious currency in complex exchange systems. The jade objects themselves showcase extraordinary technical prowess. Jade is a remarkably hard mineral, rating about 6.0 to 7.0 on the Mohs scale. Working it requires meticulous grinding, sawing, and polishing, often over extended periods. Some figurines show minuscule detailing, including incised lines for hair or feathers, testifying to the artistry of master carvers. One popular form is known as the axe god, a pendant that merges the outline of an axe blade with a deity-like human or animal figure on top. Scholars suggest such designs may have symbolized fertility or protective energies, reflecting layered religious beliefs that might have blended with local cosmologies. Philosophically, these jade figurines underscore how aesthetic beauty often intertwines with spiritual function. Across the globe, from the jade discs of ancient China to the emerald carvings revered in some Middle Eastern traditions, gemstones have frequently been linked to divine or cosmic power. The luminous, translucent quality of jade, coupled with its resilience, likely bestowed upon it an aura of immortality or connection to the supernatural. For ancient Costa Ricans, wearing or holding a jade pendant could serve as a tactile experience of the sacred, a physical means to commune with gods or ancestors. Yet as trade routes shifted and new materials like gold became available, the role of jade in Costa Rican societies began to change. Archaeological evidence suggests a decline in jade artifacts by around 800 CE, coinciding with transformations in local political structures and possibly the arrival of new cultural influences. Today, thousands of these figurines grace museum collections, but the full depth of their iconography remains elusive. Were they purely spiritual? Did they mark social hierarchy or convey genealogical lineage? Could some figurines have served a shamanic function, bridging the human and animal realms? Such questions invite continued reflection on the myriad ways humans invest objects with layered meanings, an enduring phenomenon that resonates across epochs and geographies. The Altanin antenna, alien tech, or sea sponge. Venturing away from sun-drenched tropics, we now plunge into the cold and forbidding waters near Antarctica, where in the 1960s, the USNS Eltonin, a former Navy icebreaker turned research vessel, captured photographs of a baffling object on the ocean floor at depths approaching 4,000 meters. Dubbed the Eltanin antenna. This upright structure featured a central column with regularly spaced lateral protrusions, each ending in a round tip, giving it an uncanny resemblance to a sophisticated radio antenna. For years, speculation about its origin ran wild. Was it debris from a lost vessel, a piece of advanced alien technology, or perhaps a natural formation misinterpreted by eager eyes? Conspiracy theorists argued that the symmetrical shape and the remote Antarctic location were too coincidental, perhaps implying a secret installation. Some linked it to an alien listening post or a leftover from a time when Antarctica's climate and geography were vastly different. Others cited the region's history of hush-hush Cold War military activities, suggesting the antenna might be related to undisclosed experiments. Marine scientists, however, offered a more prosaic explanation. It could be a carnivorous sponge of the genus Cladorhiza, known to adopt an upright stalk with branching arms for capturing prey. In 1971, oceanographers Bruce Heezen and Charles Hollister proposed precisely that in their volume, The Face of the Deep. Proponents of the sponge theory note that the shape closely matches known species of deep-sea sponges, which grow in clusters or individually in nutrient-poor environments. Benthic fauna in the Southern Ocean can assume striking forms owing to evolutionary adaptations in harsh conditions. The symmetrical spacing could be a natural arrangement of feeding filaments. Indeed, sketches from older oceanographic surveys show visually similar sponges. A potential complication: most documented sponges of this variety come in colonies, whereas the Eltanin photograph seems to depict a solitary structure in an otherwise barren seafloor. Still, marine ecology is full of surprises, and solitary sponges may exist in these remote depths. Over time, the mystery has receded from public consciousness, partly because the Eltanin antenna site has proven extremely difficult to revisit. Antarctica's treacherous seas and ice coverage make repeated expeditions prohibitively expensive and logistically daunting. Despite occasional internet forums reviving alien speculations, mainstream scientific circles largely accept the sponge hypothesis. Some believers in alternative explanations argue that official agencies have quietly accepted a natural explanation to avoid revealing top-secret research. The lack of new photographs or direct samples from subsequent expeditions fuels the paranoia that something more sinister or extraordinary has been concealed. Yet from a broader perspective, the Eltanin antenna puzzle exemplifies humanity's enduring urge to interpret anomalies through a lens of wonder, fear, or cosmic significance. Much like sightings of unidentified flying objects, once an intriguing image sets imaginations ablaze, it can become part of a cultural mythos. Religiously inclined observers might see in these phenomena a testament to the boundless creativity of a divine cosmos, or a sign that unseen spiritual forces shape marine life. Philosophically, it underscores the interplay between empirical data and narrative speculation. One photograph can launch 1,000 theories reflecting our collective thirst for stories that stretch reality to its limits. Whether alien artifact or just a quirky sponge, the Eltanin antenna remains a salient reminder that Earth's remote corners may harbor countless riddles, patiently waiting for the curious to peer beneath the waves. Russian megaspheres, geological marvel, or ancient artifacts. Now we pivot to another polar region, though, in the northern hemisphere, where icy terrain conceals what some consider one of the strangest geological formations on Earth, the giant stone spheres of Champ Island in Russia's Franz Josef Land archipelago. In 2016, miners reported finding dozens of smooth, almost perfectly rounded boulders, some measuring up to 4 meters in diameter. Dubbed megaspheres by the media, these objects immediately sparked global intrigue. Photographs showed these spheres scattered across a tundra landscape, their surfaces surprisingly, even as if meticulously polished by an unknown artisan. Geologists soon attributed the formations to natural processes known as concretion, in which mineral particles accumulate around a core, often organic material, and gradually harden into near-spherical shapes over millions of years. Similar formations can be found elsewhere, such as the Moai boulders in New Zealand or the Kutu boulders in New Zealand's North Island. Even so, the Champ Island spheres dwarf many of their counterparts, and their remote location, combined with extreme polar conditions, only heightens their mystique. Moreover, certain spheres appear aligned or grouped in patterns that some visitors interpret as deliberate. Speculation runs rampant. Fringe theorists suggest these might be remnants of an ancient civilization, perhaps a site for rituals or advanced technologies. Some claim the stones ring like hollow bells when tapped gently, though scientific expeditions have not conclusively confirmed this phenomenon. Others note that Franz Josef Land was once a Soviet military zone known for nuclear tests fueling conspiracy talk about secret engineering projects or nuclear-induced geological transformations. Mainstream geology, however, remains steadfast in explaining the spheres as natural, pointing out that glacial and erosional forces can yield surprising shapes over long periods. That said, thorough scientific investigation is limited by the archipelago's forbidding climate, which allows only short windows for research each year. Philosophically and religiously, the megaspheres evoke humanity's fascination with perfect geometry in nature. Circles and spheres carry powerful symbolic resonance in many faiths, representing unity, infinity, or cosmic wholeness. Could the near-perfect shape of these boulders prompt us to see divine craftsmanship at work? Even in advanced cosmological thought, spheres emerge as a fundamental shape from celestial bodies to atomic structures. The existence of these large spherical stones, absent of any overtly human touch, stirs reflection on whether nature's artistry can exceed our preconceived boundaries between the organic and the engineered. Nevertheless, the puzzle remains partially unsolved. Future expeditions could shed more light on the sphere's internal composition and formation timeline. For now, the Russian megaspheres serve as testament to the interplay between geological processes and cultural narrative building. They remind us that although Earth is thoroughly mapped in many respects, it continues to reveal pockets of wonder that upset easy categorization. Whether you stand in awe of natural processes or see evidence of an ancient forgotten capability, these stone giants persist in raising eyebrows and questions. In this regard, they join a long line of geological wonders like the Great Blue Hole of Belize or the basalt columns of Northern Ireland that beckon travelers and scientists alike to unravel the art and mystery inscribed within Earth's geological record. Bridging knowledge and enigma, mulling over the discoveries presented thus far, Olmec heads Hebrew-like inscriptions in New Mexico, refined jade art in Costa Rica, an antenna-shaped anomaly on the ocean floor, and massive stone orbs in Arctic Russia. We can see a recurring dialectic at play, the tension between rational evidence-based explanations and the human longing for the extraordinary or supernatural. Each artifact or formation compels us to ask, are we looking at a natural product that happens to mimic design, or an intentional work shaped by hands with knowledge we can scarcely fathom? Certainly science has grown adept at decoding many mysteries, We can measure isotopes, scan strata layers, and conduct genetic tests that reveal hidden historical threads. The rational mind finds comfort in plausible narratives. The lost lunar stone might be a hoax. The Eltanin antenna probably expunged the Russian sphere's likely concretions. But in each of these there remains an element of possibility, no matter how small, that the official story might be incomplete, or that our vantage point omits intangible factors like spiritual significance or advanced practices lost to time. Could someone with the resources of a lost civilization have planted a spark, plug-like artifact in the depths of geologic layers, just as fringe theorists claim in other contexts? Usually the simplest explanation wins, yet the door never fully closes. From a religious or spiritual lens, it's noteworthy how many of these phenomena are shrouded in a sense of the sacred. The Olmec heads were possibly tied to rulers who bore semi-divine status. The jade figurines likely served ritual functions bridging the mortal and cosmic realms. At a deeper level, the very notion that something might be out of place resonates with religious myths of pilgrimages, lost tribes, or exiled groups that carried their traditions across uncharted territories. One might recall the biblical story of the Exodus or the Mormon narrative of Israelites journeying to the New World, tales that speak to the possibility of ancient migrations, shaping the spiritual tapestry of distant lands. Meanwhile, these puzzles also highlight a philosophical dimension concerning our limitations in interpreting the past. If we rely too heavily on present-day frameworks, our own biases, technologies, or cultural assumptions, we may overlook subtleties essential to an authentic understanding. Skeptics often point out that forging an inscription is straightforward enough. Believers retort that humankind's historical record may be more complicated than academia admits. Ultimately, these dialogues speak to the tension between orthodoxy and revisionism, between established knowledge and radical re-evaluations. As we prepare to delve into the final segment of our exploration, let us keep in mind this duality for each site or artifact. Mainstream science generally offers grounded theories, while alternative voices push for broader or more esoteric interpretations. Neither perspective holds an absolute monopoly on insight or imagination. In many ways, that friction drives the very engine of discovery, leading to refined dating techniques, new archaeological approaches, and deeper respect for ancient oral histories. In Part 3, we will navigate a final set of puzzles from mysterious human remains that challenge our evolution timelines, to lost cities submerged beneath the sea, and reflect on what these enigmas mean for our ongoing quest to know who we are and how we came to be. Transition to Part 3, with these artifacts and phenomena illuminating the complexities of ancient cultures. We stand at the threshold of yet more intriguing discoveries in our concluding section. Part 3 will unfold riddles about long-lost peoples' unsolved script that might hold the key to entire civilizations and drowned cities that whisper of cataclysmic transformations. Just as the antenna in Antarctic waters stirred debate about Earth's hidden corners, so too do these remaining enigmas beckon us toward fresh horizons of thought. In the narratives of the Olmecs, the lost lunar stone and the Russian spheres, we see how local legends and mainstream academia can clash or converge. We also witness the power of new methodological tools, advanced dating, digital mapping, undersea robotics, and genome sequencing. If we have learned anything, it is that few mysteries exist in a vacuum. Each is part of a grand mosaic intricately connected to cultural memory, ecological shifts, and humanity's perennial quest for understanding. Even a single jade pendant can hint at extensive trade routes, spiritual devotion, and artistic genius rolled into one. Moreover, these anomalies underscore a humble truth. No matter how much we might know, the world retains layers of surprise. Ancient megaliths in the rainforests, ephemeral inscriptions in desert canyons, submarine curiosities on the ocean floor, each can upset neat, linear narratives of progress. And perhaps that is precisely why we remain so captivated. A spark of the unknown invites us into a realm where we become explorers at heart, forging imaginative links between vanished civilizations and futuristic possibilities. As we turn the page to our final suite of mysteries, consider the philosophical significance of the unknown. Existential thinkers from Kierkegaard to Camus have noted that our confrontation with uncertainty can be both paralyzing and liberating. Religiously, an unexplained phenomenon can strengthen faith in a cosmic design or stir theological debates over the presence of hidden knowledge. Sociologically, each new puzzle stirs communities of believers and debunkers, each convinced of their interpretive framework. In that sense, ancient mysteries mirror modern dialogues on big questions. Are we alone? Do we come from ancestors more advanced than we realize? What does it mean to flourish or vanish as a society? In the next part, we shall explore the Red Deer Cave, people-human remains that raise questions about our evolutionary branches, and investigate the Indus Valley script, which might hold the story of a thriving Bronze Age civilization that vanished without leaving readable records. We will also visit the lost city of Pavlopetri, a Greek metropolis submerged beneath the sea for millennia, and the perplexing Tartaria tablets of Eastern Europe, which some believe predate all known writing systems. These final chapters amplify the universal question: how does a civilization's knowledge endure or disappear? And how do we, as modern inheritors of Earth's legacy, interpret the signs left behind? Let us step forward into Part 3 with open minds, ready to glean what insights we can from the strangest corners of our shared past. Lost peoples, submerged cities, and unreadable scripts, the Red Deer Cave. People, a curious branch of humanity. We begin Part 3 with a venture into the mist-shrouded caves of southwest China, where a series of discoveries starting in the 1970s eventually led to what some scientists call the Red Deer Cave people. In Guangxi province, near the borders of Yunnan Petroleum, geologists and archaeologists unearthed human bones that for a long time seemed like a minor curiosity. Yet a more systematic excavation in 1989 at a site aptly named Red Deer Cave brought forth evidence of a people who lived roughly 17,800 to 11,500 years ago at the tail end of the last ice age. Their remains bore startling similarities to more ancient human species, including features like thick brow ridges, robust jaws, and certain archaic cranial shapes. For a while, some anthropologists speculated these remains belonged to a distinct human group, or even an entirely unclassified species akin to Homo erectus survivors. A thigh bone analysis seemed to suggest they were not fully modern, fueling theories of a localized population that retained ancient traits. Others proposed a hybrid scenario, implying interbreeding between modern humans and Denisovans, another mysterious branch of humanity discovered primarily through DNA fragments in Siberia. This scenario mirrored that of the so-called hobbits on Flores Island in Indonesia, small-statured humans that persisted far more recently than expected. In 2012, the scientific community buzzed with talk of a new kind of human. By 2015, deeper investigations found that the Red Deer Cave skeletons fell outside the typical range for modern Homo sapiens in certain measurements. However, the storyline took another twist in 2022 when partial DNA extraction revealed that these individuals were indeed closely related to modern East Asians and Native Americans. While they still exhibited archaic morphological features, it appears they were part of a broader continuum of anatomically modern humans, possibly adapted to local conditions or reflecting a complex migration pattern. This resolution underscores how genetics can overturn earlier physical assumptions. Philosophically, the Red Deer Cave case opens a window into how dynamic and messy human evolution truly is. Perhaps we oversimplify the saga by imagining neat transitions from one species to another. Instead, multiple hominin lineages coexisted and possibly mingled through interbreeding, generating a genetic mosaic that extends into living populations today. Religious perspectives might see this as consistent with the notion that humanity's origins are multifaceted and spread across diverse habitats, though some creationist views might contest the deep timelines altogether. Regardless, the presence of archaic features in a relatively recent population triggers reflection on what it means to be human at a biological and cultural level. Add to this the question of how these individuals survived. If they had archaic features and limited technology, was their environment more forgiving, or did they possess social structures that compensated for potential vulnerabilities? And what of the red deer bones that litter the cave? Were these people skilled hunters, or did the deer represent a cultural totem? As in so many ancient mysteries, the line between data and speculation remains blurred. But the Red Deer Cave people remind us that our species' story is not straightforward. Sometimes even fairly recent remains can upend cherished narratives, prompting us to see human diversity as a tapestry woven from many evolutionary threads. The Indus Valley script secrets of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro venture now to the fertile alluvial plains of the Indus River, where an advanced Bronze Age civilization once flourished from roughly 3300 to 1900 BCE. Known interchangeably as the Harappan or Indus Valley Civilization, it boasted impressive urban planning, intricate drainage systems, and a standardized system of weights and measures. Its cities, Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and others, rivaled the best of Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Yet for all its grandeur, one riddle remains unresolved: the Indus Valley script. Archaeologists have unearthed thousands of seals, tablets, and inscriptions adorned with mysterious symbols. Animals, abstract icons, geometric shapes, but thus far, no one has convincingly deciphered them. One of the biggest obstacles is the brevity of these texts. Most inscriptions contain only 3 to 5 characters, rarely more than a dozen. This scarcity of lengthy texts makes it difficult to apply the kind of cryptographic logic used in deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphs via the Rosetta Stone. Another challenge is the absence of a bilingual text or direct translation. While the Indus people were known to engage in extensive trade with Mesopotamia, any potential link or reference has yet to yield a workable code breaker. The symbols range widely from a unicorn motif to repeated anthropomorphic figures, fish-like shapes and symmetrical patterns that might denote merchandise, clan emblems, or religious concepts. Speculation about the script's nature runs from theories of a logosyllabic system similar to cuneiform or hieroglyphics to the hypothesis that it might be purely ideographic, conveying concepts rather than phonetic sounds. Some scholars question whether it was a writing system at all. Perhaps they propose the symbols functioned as trade markers or tokens of identity, never aiming to replicate spoken language. Others suspect a Dravidian base connecting modern South Indian languages to the ancient Indus realm. Occasional announcements of partial decipherments arise, but consensus remains elusive. If we peer through a philosophical lens, the Indus script underscores the fragile nature of cultural transmission. Here was a society advanced enough to build well-organized cities, to trade over great distances, and to establish uniform architectural standards. Yet the meaning behind their symbols remains unknown to us. It prompts a reflection on how knowledge can vanish if not continuously preserved and interpreted through subsequent generations. Religiously, the question also arises: did the Indus people encode spiritual beliefs or cosmic cycles in their symbols, similar to Egyptian and Mesopotamian scripts that included religious content? Without a Rosetta Stone or an unbroken chain of tradition, their worldview remains tantalizingly just beyond our grasp. For these reasons, the Indus script stands as one of the greatest unsolved puzzles in archaeology. It reminds us that even an elaborate, well-developed society can fade into obscurity, leaving behind a silent library of images that whisper of lost narratives. Researchers from many disciplines, linguistics, computer science, anthropology, continue the quest. They analyze symbol frequency, attempt pattern recognition algorithms, and compare the Indus corpus to myriad historical scripts. Yet the fundamental question remains: will we ever truly read what the Indus scribes wished to communicate, or does its meaning dwell irretrievably in the dust of millennia, forcing us to appreciate the fragility of written legacies when cultural continuity is disrupted? Jiroft and the land of Arata, hidden splendors in Iran. Shifting to the high plateau of southeastern Iran, we encounter a less well-known but equally captivating archaeological locale: Jiroft. In 2001, a flood along the Halil River revealed an ancient cemetery of staggering size, exposing artifacts looted almost immediately by enterprising locals. The Iranian authorities intervened, seizing caches of intricately carved stone vessels, game boards, and bejeweled weapons. These items, meticulously crafted from chlorite jade and other precious materials, radiated an artistic sophistication reminiscent of, and perhaps even predating, Mesopotamian civilizations. Excavations soon revealed the remains of a Bronze Age city dated to around 2500 to 200 BCE, along with monumental structures and evidence of advanced urban development. Archaeologist Youssef Majidsadeh proposed that Jiroft could be the legendary Arata, a land described in Sumerian epics as a place of immense wealth, revered for its precious stones and elaborate crafts. Supporting this view were cylinder seals bearing stylistic affinities with Mesopotamian prototypes, suggesting robust cultural exchange or parallel development. Additionally, early Elamite inscriptions were found, prompting theories that Jiroft might stand at the nexus of Elamite, Mesopotamian, and even Indus influences. Not everyone agrees with such bold claims. Skeptics argue the link to Arata is circumstantial, lacking direct literary correlations. They view Gyroft as an important but not necessarily game-changing city that participated in a broader sphere of Bronze Age interaction. The site's architectural remains, fortress-like structures, ceremonial precincts do underscore a high level of social organization. The scale of recovered artifacts, from elaborate carved vessels depicting animals and gods to jewelry and tools, reveals a city that thrived on both local production and extensive trade. Spiritually, Gyroft's iconography includes scenes of mythic combat, serpent-human hybrids, and stylized flora imagery reminiscent of stories about cosmic battles or the interplay between natural forces and divine beings. Some vessels depict anthropomorphic figures subduing serpents, a motif that resonates with broader mythologies about heroic confrontations with chaos. Could these have been part of religious rites offerings or funerary practices? The presence of massive cemeteries implies a culture that invested heavily in burial rituals, possibly linking wealth and artistry to beliefs about the afterlife. Philosophically, the case of Gyroft is a lesson in how a single moment, a flood, can radically reshape our knowledge of antiquity. For millennia, the remnants of this civilization lay buried, hidden from mainstream narratives that once focused primarily on the cradles of the Near East and Indus regions. The rediscovery challenges the notion that only a few epicenters generated humanity's earliest advanced societies. Instead, Gyroft highlights the diversity of human innovation, underscoring that multiple advanced civilizations might have existed concurrently, engaging in cultural and economic exchanges. Today, efforts continue to excavate and protect the site, but debates about its true status, minor kingdom, major crossroads, or the actual land of Arata persist. Gyroft stands as a tangible reminder that Earth still hides many chapters of ancient human history, awaiting chance events or determined scholars to bring them to light. In the same spirit as the Indus script or the Red Deer Cave finds Gyroft complicates our once straightforward timeline, echoing a deeper truth. History is not a single line, but a vast web of cultural efflorescences, expansions, and disappearances. The Tartaria tablets, Europe's possible oldest writing, continue to Eastern Europe, specifically the Transylvanian region of Romania. There, in 1961, archaeologist Nicolae Vlasa led a team that discovered 3 small clay tablets in a Neolithic site near the village of Tartaria. 2 of these tablets, one rectangular and one circular, each bore holes as if they were meant to be worn. More notably, they displayed a series of incised symbols resembling those of the Vinča culture, an enigmatic Neolithic civilization spread across the Balkans from approximately 5500 to 4500 BCE. Some of these symbols look tantalizingly like proto-writing, a potential system of notation predating Sumerian cuneiform by a millennium or more. The Tartaria tablets ignited a veritable firestorm of archaeological debate. If these tablets indeed represent writing, it might relocate the cradle of literacy from Mesopotamia to southeastern Europe, a radical shift. Others remain unconvinced, arguing that the marks lack consistent patterns, vocabulary, or syntax to constitute a writing system in the linguistic sense. Complicating matters, the tablets were improperly fired after discovery, which destroyed the organic residue that might have yielded reliable carbon-14 dating. As a result, estimates range widely, some claiming an age as old as 5300 BCE, while others place them closer to 3000 BCE, or even more recent. Another puzzle is the context the tablets were found alongside 26 figurines, possibly representing a ritual deposit. Some researchers suspect the site was a shaman's grave or a ceremonial pit. Moreover, the tablets carry imagery reminiscent of fertility symbols, human figures with outstretched arms, rudimentary flora, or maybe stylized animals. Could they document a religious rite, a name list of participants, or a primitive calendar? The Vinca culture itself left behind an extensive repertoire of symbols incised on pottery figurines and other objects, fueling theories of a proto-script used for trade or communal memory. In a religious or mythological dimension, if these tablets did encode sacred knowledge, they might align with the broader phenomenon of writing's earliest uses, recording offerings to deities, enumerating goods for temples, or marking the symbolic cycles of nature. Philosophically, it raises the question, how does symbolic thought evolve to the point where distinct signs convey abstract meaning, the Tartaria? Tablets and similar artifacts in the Balkans suggest that the impetus for symbolic notation could arise from local cultural demands, ritual obligations, property management, or spiritual narratives. Yet the debates remain as lively as ever. Those skeptical of a direct leap from Vinca signs to full-fledged writing note the absence of extended texts, the apparently random arrangement of symbols, and the possibility that the Vinca system might be more akin to proto-literate art rather than an actual script. The ardent supporters of an ancient European writing tradition, however, see these tablets as the tip of an iceberg, implying a complex civilization overshadowed by the more famous Mesopotamian and Egyptian expansions. Either way, the Tartaria tablets reflect the precarious nature of archaeological interpretation. Small artifacts can challenge established narratives, pushing us to reconsider the who, when, and why of how writing was born. The 10,000-year-old dwarf skeleton, a study in acceptance. In 2007, a surprising discovery emerged from a Neolithic burial site near the Yellow River in east-central China. Archaeologists were examining the skeletal remains of the Yangshao culture when they uncovered a separate grave containing what appeared to be a human of unusually short stature, around half the height of an average adult, yet displaying proportionate bodily dimensions. Later analyses indicated that these bones dated back roughly 10,000 years, marking them as older than the surrounding burials by millennia. This triggered intense curiosity among paleoanthropologists and medical researchers. How had a person with dwarfism survived in a hunter-gatherer society that presumably depended heavily on physical prowess? Examinations of bone density hinted at osteoporosis, suggesting a challenging life of health complications. Yet the skeleton was found in a deliberate burial site with some indications of a respectful interment despite the unusual posture. Hands crossed behind the back, possibly an intentional ritual signifier. Scholars hypothesize that the community might have cared for this individual, contravening the assumption that physically unfit members were routinely abandoned in harsh prehistoric conditions. Some even propose a spiritual or shamanic role, pointing out that in numerous cultures, individuals with unique physical traits could be regarded as intermediaries between the mortal realm and the divine or ancestral spirits. Such a hypothesis intersects intriguingly with religious and philosophical debates on the value of life. Traditional Darwinian logic might assume that a physically compromised individual in a subsistence economy faces low survival odds. Yet the remains of this dwarf individual show otherwise, hinting at social cohesion, empathy, or spiritual reverence that transcended mere utility. In many indigenous traditions, conditions that set someone apart physically or mentally, could be interpreted as marks of divine favor or mystical calling. Thus, the community's acceptance of this individual might have been interwoven with religious beliefs about difference, fate, and cosmic purpose. Even so, questions remain unanswered. Why was this skeleton significantly older than the surrounding graves, and was the date accurate? Could the remains have been exhumed from an earlier site and ritually reburied to link past ancestors with contemporary inhabitants? Or were the dating methods confounded by soil contamination or other factors? Additionally, the posture, hands behind the back, might have signaled punishment, subjugation, or sacrifice. Interpretation is complicated by the absence of direct cultural records from that era. What is evident is that this discovery prompts reflection on how communities care for their vulnerable. Philosophically, it suggests that compassion, or at least structured communal responsibility, could be older than we often assume. Religiously, it may connect with cross-cultural notions of the holy fool or liminal figure who mediates between worlds. The dwarf skeleton, then, is more than a medical curiosity. It challenges stereotypes about prehistoric existence, offering a deeper message within the tapestry of ancient societies. Individuals of diverse abilities might have found places that contributed to collective life and spiritual identity. The story underscores an enduring truth: our ancestors were as human as we are today, wrestling with moral and social dilemmas that transcend epochs. The lost city of Pavlo-Petri, Europe's Atlantis. Moving westward across continents, we arrive on the coast of Greece, where, submerged under a mere 3 to 4 meters of water, lies the oldest known underwater city, Pavlo-Petri. Situated off the southern coast of the Peloponnese near Vatica Bay, this city dates back at least 5,000 years to the early Bronze Age and thrived until around 1100 BCE. First noticed by a geologist in 1904 and later documented by marine archaeologist Nicholas Fleming in 1967, Pavlo-Petri became a cornerstone in the study of submerged settlements. Sonar mapping and underwater excavations have since unveiled streets, 2-story houses, courtyards, and even sophisticated drainage channels, a testament to advanced urban planning. The big enigma is how this once bustling port city ended up under the sea. Some researchers attribute it to seismic activities. The Peloponnese region is notably prone to earthquakes that can cause subsidence. Others point to gradual sea level rise over centuries, potentially exacerbated by local geological changes. Recent high-resolution mapping efforts revealed that Pavlo-Petri boasted an efficient layout indicative of a thriving maritime culture. Archaeologists found pottery shards linking it to the Minoans on Crete and other Aegean islands, suggesting a vibrant network of trade. Textiles, precious metals, and possibly even large-scale shipbuilding might have formed the economic backbone. Philosophically, and from a religious standpoint, Pavlo-Petri resonates with the age-old myth of Atlantis, though Plato's tale was set in a different time and possibly a different region. Still, the concept of a once great city consumed by the sea stirs timeless anxieties and fascinations, echoing biblical flood narratives and other deluge myths worldwide. It exemplifies how nature's forces can abruptly transform a civilization's destiny, leaving behind silent ruins for future explorers. Such submersion events might have contributed to local oral traditions of cataclysm stories that shaped Greek mythic imagination about vengeful gods and lost paradises. There is also a poignant environmental lesson embedded here. The city's advanced infrastructure testifies to human ingenuity, but geology and climate evidently outmatched it. Modern parallels abound in coastal regions threatened by rising seas and increased storm surges. Studying Pavlopetri can provide archaeological data about adaptation and resilience in ancient societies. Did these inhabitants attempt to fortify the shoreline, or did they gradually migrate inland as water levels crept higher? Such questions resonate powerfully today, challenging us to learn from the experiences of those who faced environmental upheavals in a less technologically equipped era. In aesthetic and practical terms, Pavlopetri stands out for its remarkable preservation. Seagrasses and soft sediments have shielded much of the settlement, allowing researchers to map the city with digital technology, generating 3D reconstructions that let us walk its streets virtually. This combination of archaeology and modern imaging reveals an entire urban blueprint, making Pavlopetri a pristine time capsule of early Greek civilization. Thus far from being a mere historical footnote, the city helps fill in gaps about the socio-political structures of Bronze Age societies, bridging the preliterate period and the dawn of classical antiquity. And like all such marvels, it beckons the curious to consider how civilizations rise, flourish, and sometimes vanish beneath the ceaseless tides of Earth's shifting landscapes. The Gosford Glyphs, Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia. From the depths of the Greek Sea, we leap across the globe to the sandstone cliffs of Brisbane Water National Park in New South Wales, Australia. Here, in a narrow cleft near Carryong, lie more than 300 carved symbols popularly referred to as the Gosford Glyphs. Discovered in the mid-1970s, though, local lore suggests they might have been noticed earlier. These inscriptions resemble a jumble of Egyptian hieroglyphs depicting Anubis ankhs, boats, and pharaonic references. Some claim the glyphs recount a narrative of shipwrecked travelers from the era of King Khufu more than 400-500 years ago, including the death of a prince and the trials of an outcast expedition. Not surprisingly, Egyptologists and mainstream archaeologists have largely dismissed the site as a modern fabrication. They observe that the symbols mix different hieroglyphic eras incorrectly, combine stylistic forms, and generally lack the grammatical order of Egyptian texts. Even the spacing and grouping appear inconsistent with authentic inscriptions. Additionally, it seems the carvings have expanded over time. Explorers who visited in the 1970s found far fewer glyphs than those photographed in the 1980s or 1990s. On-site experts have also noted fresh chisel marks in certain areas, indicative of relatively recent tampering. Still believers in an ancient Egyptian presence in Australia point to cultural myths about global maritime exploration and the possibility that Egyptian mariners might have circumnavigated the continent in search of new trade routes. Some have claimed that local Aboriginal lore contains references to foreign godlike visitors, though professional anthropologists generally find no evidence of such Egyptian influences in indigenous traditions. A few proponents bring up the detail that the glyphs allegedly include reference to obscure aspects of Egyptian cosmology or language not commonly known in the early 20th century, hoping to demonstrate authenticity. In philosophical or religious terms, the idea of Egyptians leaving traces in Australia ties into a broader human fascination with out-of-place artifacts. If such evidence were ever validated, it would rewrite entire chapters of global history, forcing us to reassess the maritime capabilities of ancient civilizations. Yet no Egyptian pottery shards, ship remnants, or other dated materials have surfaced to support such a contact scenario. This absence of corroboration stands in stark contrast to the depth of exchange we see in the Mediterranean and Near Eastern worlds, where Egyptian, Greek, and Levantine artifacts are discovered in mutual contexts. Ultimately, the Gosford glyphs likely serve as a textbook example of how local enthusiasm, modern storytelling, and the universal allure of hidden histories can converge. That does not negate their cultural interest. Rather, it reaffirms that humans love weaving elaborate tales of far-flung voyages, lost princes, and cryptic messages on cave walls. Religiously, we might see parallels in how relics or sacred inscriptions sometimes appear to validate faith claims. Sociologically, the site exemplifies a communal desire for mythic significance. People want to believe their region holds a key to global mysteries. Factually, the consensus remains that these glyphs are an elaborate hoax or a well-meaning modern tribute. Yet in the broader tapestry of ancient enigmas, the Gosford glyphs highlight our enduring appetite for wonder and the tension between legitimate scholarship and the romance of the unexplained. The Coso artifact, a spark plug stuck in time. Finally, we circle back to North America and the perplexing Coso artifact, sometimes described as a spark plug encased within a 500,000-year-old geode. The story begins on February 13, 1961, when three rock collectors, Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell, were hunting for geodes in the Coso Mountains near Olathe, California. Hoping to find specimens with dazzling crystals, they instead cracked open a stone and discovered a core resembling a ceramic cylinder surrounded by metal rings. X-ray images later showed something akin to a spring or coil inside. To some, it looked unmistakably like a 1920s-era champion spark plug. Naturally, this sparked sensational headlines about impossible artifact that contradicted established geological timescales. Proponents of out-of-place artifact theories seized on the find as possible proof of advanced civilizations in Earth's distant past, or even alien visitors who left behind their technology. The rock's apparent old age, some said hundreds of thousands of years, clashed with the known invention date of spark plugs in the early 20th century. Skeptics, however, pointed to a phenomenon called concretion, wherein sedimentary minerals can rapidly accumulate around foreign objects under the right conditions. Could the Coso artifact simply be a modern spark plug that got embedded in hardened sediment over a few decades? Further complicating the matter, the original artifact vanished after brief publicity, and subsequent investigators have had to rely on photographs, second-hand descriptions, and uncertain geological analyses. Some believe the entire story is a hoax inflated by misread geological contexts. Others argue that even if the artifact is a genuine spark plug, the dating of the surrounding matrix was never established scientifically. Early reports that it was 500,000 years old were more rumor than conclusion. Ultimately, without the original object for direct testing, the Coso artifact remains in limbo, a curiosity that invites speculation more than it affords concrete evidence. From a philosophical angle, the Coso artifact illustrates the dangers of jumping to extraordinary conclusions without rigorous confirmation. It also exemplifies how a seemingly trivial "find a spark plug" can become a catalyst for grand narratives about hidden civilizations or temporal anomalies. Religiously, One might see parallels to scriptural stories about advanced knowledge lost after cataclysmic events, though mainstream scientists remain unconvinced by such leaps. The artifact's disappearance underscores the fragility of evidence. A single physical item can hold answers, but once lost, it slides into the realm of legend or conspiracy lore. In the pantheon of strange finds alongside the Baigong pipes, the Los Lunas Decalogue stone and the Gosford glyphs, the Koso artifact highlights recurring themes: the thirst for rewriting history, the thin line between hoaxes and authentic discoveries, and the resilience of human imagination. Whether it was ever truly an anomaly, or just a misread piece of industrial debris, it has woven itself into the tapestry of modern crypto-archaeological lore. In that sense, it remains a cautionary tale, reminding us to apply both curiosity and critical thinking to artifacts that appear to defy scientific consensus. Conclusion: reflections on the eternal quest. We have now surveyed a panoply of ancient puzzles, red-haired giants in a Nevada cave, intricate desert murals in Texas, labyrinthine pipes in a remote Chinese mountain, Moai guardians on Rapa Nui, surreal bronze masks in Sichuan, Olmec heads gazing upon tropical lowlands, Paleo-Hebrew inscriptions in New Mexico, the Eltanin antenna off Antarctica's frigid depths, colossal Russian stone spheres, ephemeral European tablets that might predate Sumer, submerged Greek cities older than Homer, and dwarf skeletons challenging our assumptions about prehistoric societies. Their diversity is matched only by their shared capacity to intrigue, provoke debate, and spur creative interpretations. If one thing stands out, it is that mysteries and human societies go hand in hand. We are storytellers, shaped by the unknown as much as by the known. Philosophically, these enigmas point to fundamental questions about how we construct narratives of our origins, expansions, and collapses. We see a tension between the desire for a grand unifying story, be it of lost advanced civilizations, alien interventions, or biblical prophecies, and the careful parsing of archaeological, geological, and genetic data that typically yields more mundane yet still fascinating truths. Some adopt a skeptical stance, dismissing everything that lacks robust evidence. Others embrace speculation, arguing that mainstream academe can be inflexible or slow to revise entrenched views. Both perspectives have their place. Skepticism ensures the rigors of methodical research, while creative thinking can spur new avenues of inquiry. Religiously, these puzzles often resonate with global motifs of floods, cataclysms, hidden knowledge, and giant or hybrid beings. The fascination extends to contemporary spiritual movements that incorporate ancient astronaut theories or Atlantean myths into their cosmology. Indeed, one could frame many of these mysteries as modern expressions of an ancient impulse, the need to find or fabricate narratives that connect our day-to-day existence with the cosmic drama. Whether or not these narratives align with scientific fact, they underscore a universal spiritual hunger. In a more immediate practical sense, these mysteries sometimes serve as cautionary tales about the fragility of our own civilization. Easter Island's Moai serve as iconic warnings about resource mismanagement, while the Indus script suggests that even sophisticated systems can disappear without leaving a decipherable legacy. Pavlo Petri's Inundation testifies to environmental changes that may outpace even the most advanced planning. The notion of a giant threat, as in Lovelock Cave, could be seen metaphorically as the looming perils of climate change or social strife, an external force that requires communal effort to address. Thus, These ancient accounts remain relevant today, reminding us that societies rise and fall, often leaving only partial clues for future generations. And so, our journey ends where it began, in awe of a past that refuses to stand still or yield easy answers. Though we have applied current knowledge to interpret each site or artifact, ultimate certainty remains elusive. Perhaps that is precisely how it should be. Each discovery triggers new questions, fueling the cycle of research and wonder. In an age awash in digital data and advanced science, we can still stand before a sandstone cliff in Texas or a submerged street in Greece and feel the ancient echoes that remind us of our shared human heritage. Thank you for joining this exploration into the enigmas of antiquity. We hope these stories have awakened your curiosity and deepened your appreciation for the boundless tapestry of human experience. May the mysteries continue to inspire you, prompting fresh insights into who we are and what we might yet become.